Are you really a Buddhist? How many people here claim to be Buddhist? Hands up. So few only. How many are free thinkers? Hands up. So few, even fewer. Why do you call yourself a Buddhist? What constitutes a Buddhist? Practicing the teaching of the Buddha. Anyone else? Taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Anyone else? Holding 5 precepts. Okay, good. Have you all read any sutta which tells you the definition of a lay disciple? Any of you read this book? Do we go to the Triple Gem for Refuge? It's outside on the free distribution counter. I don't think you read now. Too heavy. Some people started reading and then they couldn't go through it because it's too heavy. Anyway, this book is all about taking refuge. Okay, I guess you people here are very busy people, a lot of worldly obligations to attend to, so you don't have time to read the sutta. So maybe easier to tell you what the sutta says, right? A couple of suttas, at least two. One is called Mahanama Sutta, and the other one is called Jivika Sutta. You know Jivika? Jivika is the physician who looks after the Buddha and the Sangha during the Buddha's time. Mahanama is supposed to be a cousin of the Buddha. So one day Mahanama approached the Buddha and asked him, Bhante, to what extent is a person called an Ubasaka? Ubasaka is a Pali word for a lay follower. Well, nowadays we call Buddhist. During the Buddha's time, they just called Ubasaka, Ubasika. And the Buddha said, one who takes refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is called an Ubasaka. So easier, right? You take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. You did that this morning, right? You follow the chanting, right? So automatically all of you are Buddhists already. Is it really that simple? I'm sure there's some catch to it. Then he went on to ask the Buddha, then what constitutes a virtuous Ubasaka? You can be an Ubasaka or a lay disciple in name because you took refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. Because you said, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. But is that all? Not just by saying, you've got to do something about it as well. So the Buddha says, one who takes refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha and also observes the 5 precepts is called a virtuous Ubasaka, a virtuous Buddhist. So you can still be a Buddhist by name, but not a virtuous one. You can take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, but you don't observe the 5 precepts. Do all of you observe the 5 precepts 100%? No, right? But you're still a Buddhist, right? You still call yourself a Buddhist? You're not the only ones. I think there are many other people. Either they are Vesak Day Buddhists or they are form filler Buddhists. When you have to fill a form and they ask you what religion you belong to, you just write Buddhist without really knowing what it is, without even taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. The next question is, how many grades of Upasaka or lay followers are there? There's one sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya called the Chandala Sutta. Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Fives, Sutta 175. There he talks about basically 2 types of Upasaka. The first type in Pali is called Upasaka Chandala, Upasaka Mala, and Upasaka Patikutta. When you translate it into English, it means an outcast lay follower, a dirty lay follower, and a substandard or deplorable lay follower. So this one is a low-class lay follower. Although he calls himself a Buddhist, this is a low-class Buddhist. And what constitutes a low-class Buddhist? So there are 5 factors. One is he does not have faith, does not have belief. Although he recited Buddha Saranam Gacchami and so forth, is only verbally recited. Inside got no faith, no belief. These are the nominal Buddhists. Second, he is immoral, no virtues, doesn't observe any of the 5 precepts. So by definition, he is an Ubasaka or Ubasika because he or she took refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, but don't really have faith, no practice. The third one, I don't know if some of you qualify for this one. It says that he is someone who is superstitious with regards to signs and omens, and he believes in blessings, not in karma. What does that mean? This one has got very wide implications. Now I'll come back to this. The fourth one is, he looks for those worthy of offerings outside of the sasana, outside of the Buddhist teachings. Goes to make offerings to other people other than the Buddhist Sangha. The fifth one, he gives priority to those outside of the sasana. Okay, now let's get back to the first one. What is meant by he does not have faith, does not have belief? Although he takes refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, it's only, as I said, nominal. Just recites like everybody else. And whenever I see a Buddha Rupa, he will start to pray. Sometimes I see, especially old people, elderly ladies, coming in front of the Buddha image and bai bai sa bai. This is very typical Chinese custom. They don't really understand what the Buddha image stands for. They don't really understand who the Buddha is. To have real faith or real belief in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha means that one believes that the Buddha was truly awakened. Usually that's what is defined in the suttas. The suttas talk about faith, one having faith and one who doesn't have faith. He will say, one who has faith is one who believes in the perfect awakening of the Buddha. And then he will go on to the stock phrase, Itipiso bhagava rahang sama sambuddho vijja charana sampanno sugado loka vidu anutro burizadam sarati sattha deva manusanam buddho bhagavati. So he's supposed to believe all this. And he stops there. He doesn't go on to talk about the Dhamma or the Sangha. Just believe in the Buddha's awakening. So one who doesn't really believe in this, but who just recites the 3 refuges, is a nominal Buddhist, is an outcast Buddhist. The second factor is that it doesn't have any morals, doesn't observe the 5 precepts. Third is, he is superstitious and he believes in blessings, not in karma. Okay, what does this entail? As I said, this has got rather far-reaching implications. We Chinese are all very superstitious. It's part of our culture, our tradition. That's how we are brought up. I'm sure there are many businessmen here who always consult the astrologer or the feng shui master before you make any decisions. Right or not? You want to play it safe. Kia su ma. So are these the characteristics of a good Buddhist? This has been a hot topic. A lot of people come to ask me. Okay, let's look at it this way. What is described in the commentaries, because this is not really explained in the suttas. The Pali word is ko tu hala mangala, blessings that derive out of omens and signs. In Burma, for example, when you set out to the fields to start work, and then a monitor lizard, a biawak, crosses your path, that's bad omen, cannot work, go back, turn back home. I mean, we modern Chinese are maybe not that superstitious, but our forefathers are. Every small little thing they see, they will start to read into it and say, oh, this is unlucky, this is not good, and so forth. People who subscribe to feng shui belief and theories, sometimes they will put the tortoise in front of the house. What does that signify? Long life. Right? Or they put this thing that looks like a ship. It looks like a sampan with a bum in the center. You know where it is? Now, if you all have folded paper money before, kim chua, gin chua, you fold it in such a way, what does that signify? Money, because that was how money looked like in the past, during the times in China. So that is a sign of money, that if you put that symbol in front of your house, that will bring you money. and you have a pond, that also will bring you money. But you make sure that you don't have water flowing out of the house, which means that it will drain away your money. So all these are superstitions that we have. Recently also in Sabah, there was an earthquake in Mount Kinabalu, and a lot of people were killed. And then one minister blamed it on the white tourists who went there and stripped naked and angered the gods there. Of course, he made himself a laughing stock because it's due to seismological activity. And after that, there was this strange lights that could be seen around Mount Kinabalu. That is also a seismological explanation for that. But of course, the locals will say, oh, that's because this is showing signs that the gods there are still very angry and so forth. So this basically what is animism all about. Animism is always looking for all these signs and omens to try to explain natural phenomena which they don't understand. But Buddhists believe in karma. A lot of things are karma, but not everything is karma. You've heard of different orders of weather, of the mind, of natural laws, as well as the order of kamma. So the next thing is that they believe in blessings, not in karma. For example, I think a lot of people, many Buddhists believe in this. They believe that monks or members of the Sangha can bestow blessings upon them. Usually after a dana, they would put their arms in Anjali when the monks start to chant. And they think that is blessing them. But actually we are not blessing you. Actually we don't have any power to bless you. Good thing you don't know what we are chanting. Actually it's just a thanksgiving. We are just wishing you well because you feed us. In fact, all this chanting were not there in the scriptures. In the early suttas, the monks don't chant after a meal. They do actually something more difficult. And chanting is an easy way out for the monks nowadays. But if a monk goes for Pinabat, collecting alms, then he is freed from this duty. He just goes to stand in front of a house or stand in front of a stall and people give him money. Not money, give him food, and then he takes the food and he goes away. That's all. He doesn't even chant anything. Although now in Thailand, they chant. When you go collect food, and then after that, the devotees will kneel down waiting for you to chant for them. If you don't chant for them, next time you come, they won't give you food. So it has become a custom in Thailand to do that. Now, at one time, when I was a young monk staying in Lampang, I was studying Pali at that time. So, a young monk, very idealistic. So, one of the rules in our Vinaya is that you're not supposed to recite Pali that comes from the Pali canon to people who are seated when you are standing. Okay? So, when we are going on Pindabat, we are standing. People are seated there waiting for blessings, you see. So I thought if I chanted, then I'll be breaking my precept, so I don't chant. So next time I come around, they see me and they turn away, they won't give me food. So I have to figure out how am I going to get out of that. So I had to select Pali passages that don't come from the Pali suttas. A lot of these things that we chant nowadays are not in the suttas, Like for example, Bhavatu Sappa Mangalang Rakhantu Sappa Devata, nothing in the sutta. This one was invented or created by later monks. Okay, so when you go on Pindabat, no need to chant. You just collect your food, go back and eat. Alright? No need to do anything, no particular duty for you to do. But if you have been invited for a lunch dana somewhere, then at the end of the dana, after you have collected your food, actually after you have eaten the food, you are supposed to give a thanksgiving talk, anumodana. And usually the senior most monk is supposed to do that. So we can see that in the Pali canon, what happens is that when the whole Sangha is invited for a dana, then after they finish eating, the rest of the monks will leave, leaving the Thera, the elder, and the elder is the one who is supposed to give a thanksgiving. Usually Thanksgiving could be just a short gatha, usually about the benefits of giving, what sort of results you can get from giving. When I stayed in Burma, I was a young monk, so I didn't have to do all these things. Whenever we go for dana, So I don't overdo it. I just sit there and listen. When I came back to Malaysia from Burma, I was invited out for dana. Usually that's what I would do. But we don't get dana so often in Taiping because we go for pindabat. We go and collect our food and we come back. So we don't have to do that. But when I come down to KL, because at the time I was busy preparing the newsletter, the newsine, working in Tatlun's place, and then people will come and give dana. Every day I got to think of a talk to give. If you're a Dhamma speaker, you will know what I mean. That's the most challenging part. Not to say the same thing again and again every day. And imagine I'm there for 1 week or 2 weeks. Every day I select a talk to give. That's very time consuming. So finally, I decided, chant lah, no mind lah, follow what everybody else is doing. So we chant. But here in Dhamms, I have a compromise. Okay? So after I receive, I chant, and then I say, okay, you still got the time and interest, you can stay back for a Dhamma discussion. So no need to prepare any topic. Anything that comes, I can answer easier. I got this cue from Ayasma Kumara. He's very clever at such things. One time I was busy trying to prepare topics, and then I saw him one day. He was just, okay, any questions? And then he would just do it off the cuff. So actually that's what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to give a thanksgiving. We don't have any power to bless you in any way. To have this idea, this belief that monks can actually give you blessings is a wrong view. And if you rely on that, thinking that will override your past karma, your past bad karma, then you become an outcast lay disciple, a low-class lay disciple, a dirty lay disciple, a deplorable lay disciple. Now, there's one sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya called the Maha Tanha Sankhaya Sutta. It's a great discourse on the destruction of craving. There is actually a story about a monk who had the wrong view that this very consciousness is the sort of an atta, is a self that transmigrates from one existence to another without changing. So the Buddha, of course, scolded this monk for this wrong view and gave a very long talk on dependent arising. How different types of consciousness arise due to different causes and conditions. He also talked about the law of dependent origination. After he talked about the law of dependent origination, then he said that one who really knows and sees and understands this law of dependent origination. Now this is talking about not an intellectual understanding, talking about experiential understanding of the law of dependent arising. Then such a person would no longer return to any belief about auspicious signs and omens. This is a very important point, that the Dhamma has to be experienced. It's not enough just to believe what the teacher says, what you read in the suttas. It's important to put it into practice and experience it yourself. The next 2 points are about giving, making offerings. Point number 4 says that one makes offerings to those outside the sasana, meaning other recluses, other renunciants who are not Buddhists. The 5th one is that one gives priority over there. I don't want to talk too much about this. I want to emphasize more on what is meant by taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, particularly the Dhamma. Okay, so the other type of Ubasaka is called an Ubasaka Ratana, a jewel lay disciple, a lotus lay disciple, a white lotus lay disciple. And this person is the opposite of the dirty disciple, of the low-class disciple. This is a high-class disciple. Number 1, he has real faith in the true awakening of the Buddha. Number 2, he keeps the 5 precepts conscientiously. 3rd, he does not believe in auspicious signs and omens, but in the law of kamma. And number 4, he does not look for people worthy of offerings outside the sasana. And number 5, he does not give priority over there. Now, when I talk about people worthy of offerings, I'm not saying that I'm not implying that one should not make donations for charitable causes outside the Buddhist arena. There are many things happening in this world now. There's a lot of natural calamities. And of course, you are encouraged actually to have compassion and give donations to relieve them of the suffering. But then it's different. You are not doing that because they are renunciants and you feel that that is a higher source of merit. You know what I mean? You're doing that really out of compassion. So this is different. If you are familiar with the standard formula for the virtues of the Sangha, you will see that the last virtue is Anuttarang Punya Ketang Lokasa. The Sangha is the incomparable field of merits in this world. So he's talking about this sort of thing. If you are looking for merits, then the recipients who will give you the highest merits would be members of the Sangha, particularly the Arya Sangha, those who have awakened. Now, I'm going on to the next section, which is what does taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha entail? I've already talked at length about the first one, which is taking refuge in the Buddha being the one who rediscovered the truth about existence, the ultimate truth about existence. Because we Buddhists believe that Buddhas come and go. There have been many Buddhas before our present one, and they also discovered these laws of nature and managed to transcend them. Eventually, the teachings that were revealed to us or expounded to us by our Buddha Gautama would also disappear, and the whole universe will go back into darkness. And then there will come another time when another Buddha will arise and rediscover what was lost. So our Buddha actually rediscovered a long-lost path. And after his discovery, he taught us the way that he himself walked, the way to be free from suffering, all forms of suffering. But not only that, because the Buddha knew many things besides just the path for liberation. He taught that there are many pathways to different destinations. In particular, he taught renunciants the path to be free from samsara, be completely liberated from samsara, the round of birth and death. But he did not teach lay people that. Most of the time, he would teach lay people the way to a good destination. Coming back to samsara, but coming back as a human being in a better position, or going to heaven, enjoying the pleasures of the world. He taught us that if you do certain things in certain ways, then this will lead you to heaven or to a good destination. If you do things in a certain way, then you will go down to the lower realms. So actually he taught us that there are many different paths going to different destinations. And it's up to you to choose what you want to do. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we believe that the Buddha actually got himself enlightened, and out of his own realization, he expounded the Dhamma. That brings us to the second aspect of taking refuge, which is taking refuge in the Dhamma. The Dhamma that was expounded by the Buddha. The word Dhamma in Pali and in Sanskrit is a difficult word to translate because it can mean so many things. It's almost like the English word thing, T-H-I-N-G, which can mean anything. But on one extreme of the Dhamma, it could mean any little thing. On the other extreme of the Dhamma, the high end of the Dhamma, it means nirvana. It means nibbana, it means the ultimate truth, it means the principles of nature, it means righteousness, the good things. Of course, there are also unwholesome things. Even kilesas or defilements are also called Dhamma, because it's a thing. You've got wholesome things and unwholesome things. You've got low-class things and you've got high-class things. So these are all Dhammas. But here, the Dhamma refers to the teachings of the Buddha. The teachings of the Buddha that was well expounded by him. As you all know, there are actually 6 attributes of the Dhamma. And what are they? The first one is Swakhato Bhagavata Dhammo. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Buddha, number 1. Number 2, Sanditthiko, which means it is to be personally seen. Akaliko, it is timeless. It can be seen immediately. without having to wait. Next one is ehi pasiko, is worthy of inviting someone to come and see for yourself. Okay, that's number 4, right? Number 5 is what? Opanayiko. You all have heard of outward bound, haven't you? Outward bound school, Lumut, Bangkok Island. I translate this as inward bound. Usually people translate differently. They say it goes inward or something like that. But what it actually means is that when you practice the Dhamma, it brings you within yourself and you understand yourself. You become introspective and you understand yourself inside rather than outside. And the final one, number 6, is Pachatam Vedidamo Vinyuhi. It is to be experienced by the wise. So out of these 6 attributes of the Dhamma, 5 of them are all experiential in nature. Right? They are to be seen by yourself, it's immediate, it is worthy of inviting one to come and see for oneself, it is inward bound, and it is to be experienced by the wise. And only 1 out of the 6 has to do with doctrines. How many percent is that? That's about 83%. 83% of it is experiential in nature. I'll come back to the Dhamma after I explain the next object of refuge, which is the Sangha. Now, in my book here, do we go to the triple gem for refuge? I stated very clearly, or maybe too clearly, that we don't go to the triple gem for refuge, but we go to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha for refuge. Now, you may wonder, what's the difference? What's the difference between the triple gem and the triple refuge? Well, in the whole of the Pali scriptures, in the Pali canon, there's only one sutta that refers to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha as Ratana, as gem, a jewel. And that sutta is Ratana Sutta. I'm sure many of you would know about it and even chant it in your daily chanting or in your chanting book. If you already studied the sutta, you will see that Dhamma there does not refer to the teachings of the Buddha. It refers to Nibbana and the samadhi of an arahant, someone who has attained Nibbana. It's not talking about the teachings, not about the law of karma, not about the Four Noble Truths, not about the law of dependent origination, not talking about the scriptures. The Dhamma in Ratana Sutta, which is a jewel, is Nibbana itself and the samadhi of an arahant. Okay? Then, what is the Sangha? The Sangha in the Ratana Sutta, the Sangha that is considered to be a jewel is the Ariya Sangha, those awakened members of the community. Now, awakened members need not necessarily mean only monks or nuns. Awakened means anyone who is awakened, whether you are a lay follower or you are a monk or a nun. So any awakened person is a Ratana, is a jewel. Which means to say, if we take refuge in the triple gem, we monks have to take refuge in enlightened lay people. Okay, now another important thing to understand about the word refuge is that it is something that you go through for help when you are in trouble, right? If you haven't realized Nibbana yet, how can you go to Nibbana for help? Can? How can you go to the samadhi of an arahant for help when you need it? Cannot. Can you? That's impossible. Do you think it will be easier to read Dhamma books, go to the internet and look for suttas to answer some of our questions about life? And even easier to look for a knowledgeable and well-behaved, respectable monk or nun to clear your doubts, right? Which you prefer? Going to see a knowledgeable and respectable nun or monk, or surfing the net? Okay, so we take refuge in the Dhamma, which is the teachings of the Buddha, not in Nibbana itself, unless you have already realized it. And we take refuge in the Sangha, the robed disciples of the Buddha. Why do we take refuge in them? Because they are supposed to be the authorities on the Dhamma. In those days, during the Buddha's time, there were no MP3 recorders, there were no videos, and there were no books as well, no paper. So how did the teachings of the Buddha come down to us? It's more than 2,500 years. For the first 500 years or so, it was the monks who preserved the teachings. The Sangha memorized the teachings and transmitted it from generation to generation. It was only in the first century AD that they were first written down on older leaves, palm leaves. You see, so that's why even today, although there are many people who wear robes, go bald and misbehave, still most Buddhists would prefer to seek advice from a monastic. Right or not? If you organize a Dhamma talk and a lay person gives a Dhamma talk compared to a monk or a nun, which one will have more attendance? So it's very normal that people will want to go to the monastic to seek advice. In fact, sometimes it's a bit troublesome, maybe very troublesome. They seem to think that because we wear robes, we know everything. They come and ask us all sorts of questions, and we end up being counselors even without any training. And even worse, they come to ask us about their marital problems. We don't get married, we don't know anything about marital relationship. But anyway, to clarify, we don't take refuge in the triple gem. We take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Right? The triple gem are the Buddha, which is a Ratana, is not only Gautama Buddha. Any Buddha, any Dhamma-sambuddha is a jewel. And the Dhamma means Nibbana and the Samadhi of an Arahant. That is a jewel. And what is Sangha? The Sangha is a community of enlightened, awakened disciples, whether lay or monastic. Well, we have faith in the Triple Gem. We believe that they are Buddhas. They are enlightened, fully enlightened. We believe that Nibbana is reachable, is attainable. And we believe that there are people who have attained Nibbana, who have realized or experienced Nibbana. All right, we believe, we have faith, we gain inspiration from the Triple Gem, but we don't take refuge in them. We take refuge in Gautama Buddha because we don't know about any other Buddhas. Any other Buddhas is only known through Gautama Buddha. And we take refuge in his teachings that lead to Nibbana. Right? And we take refuge in the Sangha, the monastic community who have transmitted the teachings down until today. Transmitted and practiced those teachings. So the members of the Sangha need not necessarily be enlightened or awakened. In fact, many of those monks who transmitted the teachings are so committed to the job of memorizing and transmitting the teachings, they don't have time to meditate. That's why even during the Buddha's time, there was this group of monks who were more inclined towards memory work and transmitting the teachings, and another group of monks who were more interested in practice. So this dichotomy has been going on ever since the Buddha's time, until today. You have monks who concentrate on academic work, and you have monks who are practitioners. And you have a few who are both. These are quite rare. Okay, so now I've made it quite clear what's the difference between the Triple Gem and the Three Refuges, right? Now I want to emphasize on the Dhamma. As I said, more than 83% of the attributes of the Dhamma are experiential in nature. But yet, we take refuge in the teachings of the Buddha. You see, that's a big problem. Taking refuge in just the doctrinal aspect of the Dhamma can be a problem because we don't know which is more authentic than the other. Right? Nowadays, there are so many schools, denominations, and sects, and traditions, and lineages. So where to begin and where to end? How to find out which one is the authentic teaching? Well, actually it's not that difficult because you just need to look at the very root teachings of the Buddha. I'm sure that all Buddhist schools and denominations would agree that the Four Noble Truths is central to the teachings of the Buddha, right? And that already includes the Noble Eightfold Path. Then Another thing is the three characteristics. Impermanence, suffering, not self. That is also common to all Buddhist schools. Thirdly is the law of dependent origination. Right? Everything is due to cause and conditioning. Everything in this world. Fourthly is the law of karma. All Buddhist schools believe in that. So, if you take refuge in these very root teachings of the Buddha, you are safe. But are most Buddhists satisfied with just that? No, right? It's very clear when you organize a Buddhist event, saying that, such and such a high-ranking monk is coming to give you empowerment and blessing. I'm sure this whole place will be filled. And then you organize another one. This monk will be giving a Dhamma talk on the Four Noble Truths. How many people will come? And even worse, next thing you organize a retreat on Vipassana meditation. Getting less and less people will come. So most people who call themselves Buddhists are not satisfied with just the core teachings. What do they want? They are not what we call a jewel of a disciple. They are not lotus disciples. They are not pure lotus disciples. They are low-class disciples, outcast disciples. They are dirty disciples, deplorable disciples. Because they are not satisfied with the core teachings. Actually, it's so simple, the core teachings are so simple. That's all it is. But they want liturgy, they want chanting, then they want blessing, and they want counseling. So that is where the problem starts. Now, Babs is supposed to be a conservative Theravada center. Theravada also knows so many forms of chanting. Okay, for example, a very simple one. You all say, Namo Tassa Bhagavato. Right or not? You chant like that. And then I tell you, hey, you shouldn't chant like that. Because when you say Namo Tassa with a long A, the Buddha becomes female. And you must chant Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato. I tell you that. Then another high-ranking monk comes along, chief priest of this and that, comes along and he chants Namo Tassa Bhagavato. So I ask you, who is the real Buddhist? The one who takes refuge in a female Buddha or a male Buddha? So that's really a problem. And then you got so many forms of chanting. I heard that in Babs, once a week a Sri Lankan monk will come and lead chanting in Sri Lankan style. And then when the Thai monks come, another style. And then this monk comes and he chants in neither Thai nor Burmese nor Sri Lankan. So you're very confused, which one is the correct one? So when you come to such things, liturgy and chanting and procedure, what to chant, these are causes for a lot of disharmony and discord. Right or not? So don't worry about these things. These are not important. The important thing is the Dhamma. As I say, the Dhamma is to be realized by yourself. It is to be seen here and now. In many suttas, actually I've got a whole list here, but I don't have the time to go through them. The Buddha was asked several times by different people. They would say, Bhante, or Master Gautama, you say that the Dhamma is to be seen by oneself, is immediate, is worthy of inviting one to come to see for oneself, is inward bound, and it's to be personally experienced by the wise. What do you mean by that? And very simple, the Buddha says, when greed arises in you and you know it, and when it's not there and you know it, or greed, hatred and delusion, when they arise and you know it, when they don't arise and you know it, then that's when the Dhamma is to be seen here and now. It's immediate. You don't have to wait for next life. Right now you can see there's greed, hatred and delusion. Or when your eye comes into contact with an object, and then you know, because of that contact, there is greed in me. Because of this contact, there's no greed in me. You know that. Also, that's when the Dhamma is to be seen here and now, and so forth. So, this experiential aspect of the Dhamma is applicable to anyone who professes to be a Buddhist. Doesn't matter which chanting style you prefer. If you can verify this, try to internalize it within yourself, then you are a real Buddhist. Right? Then when you see this, it will affect all the other qualities of a Buddhist. The first one is faith, belief. Because you verify it within yourself, you see it for yourself, that this is true. The Buddha says that all these things are impermanent. It keeps on changing. Sometimes there's greed, sometimes there's no greed, sometimes there's hatred, sometimes there's none, sometimes there's jealousy, sometimes there's none. And they come about because of causes and conditions. Then you see, there's this law of dependent arising. Things can only happen when the cause and conditions are there. You see that? Then you understand. Not because you have developed the psychic power to see past lives, but you can understand cause and effect here and now. Things happen because of cause and effect. And you see that again and again as continuously as you can, not just once in a while, once a week, come for half an hour sitting meditation. We try to do that the whole day, trying to watch your mind. Very easy. Just ask yourself, what's the mind doing? What's the mind doing? You can see immediately. When you ask that question, you can see immediately what the mind is doing. Is it getting lost in thoughts, or is it aware of what's happening? When you're able to step back and look at things happening, then you become a third-party observer and you see things very objectively. Then you're not so easily pulled by your defilements. You can step back and look when the defilements are there, and you remember also that the Buddha said the mind is intrinsically pure and radiant. It's only these external defilements that defile the mind. Then you don't associate or identify with the defilements. They are just like what I say, not the Buddha, like viruses and bacteria, they are all over the place. But if you have a good immune system, they don't affect you, right? So, if you have a good mental, spiritual immune system, all these defilements will not affect you. They'll just come and go. You just see them come and go, don't identify with them, don't buy into them. So I would encourage you, if you really want to be a real Buddhist, don't worry too much about all these external things, chanting style, procedure, and all that. But look into yourself. The Dhamma is to be seen here and now, by yourself. And it will lead inwards as you know more and more of yourself. I know that all of you don't have the time to go and read suttas and compare and see who is right and who is wrong, but it's very simple to just look back at your mind. You yourself will know it, right? So I hope that all of you will try hard to remember this simple principle, put into practice, and really, really become real Buddhists. Question time.
The word watching the mind is very easy, but in actual fact, most people, and I'm one of them inclusive, half the time my mind is just like the show Eat, Pray, Love. You can sit down and sit quietly, but the mind cannot be quiet. So perhaps you can give a very short tip. How do we practice this? It's going to happen overnight, but how do we practice this? Thank you.
Okay. Can you just sit comfortably, all of you? It won't take too long, so don't worry. Just 1 minute. Okay? So in this 1 minute, starting from now, you don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to look at me. You just keep an unfocused gaze. Just know that you are seeing. Bring your attention to your body. Be aware of the different sensations in your body. Your buttocks touching the floor, your limbs touching one another, your back, propping up your body. Okay, now the next minute, Open up your awareness. Be aware of other things that are happening around you. But don't stay at any particular object. You may hear sounds, there are different sensations in different parts of the body. Your eyes are open, you can see. Just stay and move around these senses. If any thoughts come, let them go and just come back to the senses. Okay, let's wait for one more minute. Don't push your thoughts away. Don't follow them. Just acknowledge them, let them go, come back and ask yourself, what can the mind know that's happening right now? Okay, that's the end of the experiment, only 3 minutes. So I'm going to tell you that very simple principles are involved. 3 important principles. Number 1, the 5 senses can only take objects of the present moment. You can only see, hear, smell, taste and feel with the body what is happening right now. Second, the mind can take objects of the past, present, future, imagination, and so forth. Third principle, the mind can normally take one object at a time. So if you keep your mind busy with the 5 senses, which are only happening right now, your mind won't run to the past, go to the future. Simple. This is a simple principle. So if you have insomnia at night, you cannot sleep, it's because you're thinking too much. You want to stop your thoughts, very simple. Come back to your body, listen to your aircon sound, and relax. Don't try to push the thoughts away. Don't follow them. Just know, let go, come back. Know, let go, come back. And don't try to focus on any particular object. And this can be done anytime, wherever you are. Just ask yourself, are you in the present? And then when you do that continuously, then it becomes a habit. You're always in the present by default. And if you're not, then you can catch it. The mind is doing something. What is it doing? Oh, thinking of the past, planning for the future, worrying about this, getting upset about this. Then you know that, let it go, come back. I'm not asking you to get rid of all thinking. There's a time after you have established yourself in this, what I call dynamic samadhi, coming back to the senses, then you will be able to process any thought, any intention that arises in you. Then you will know whether this intention is productive or not. If it's not a productive thought, don't pursue it, let go. If it's a productive thought, it's got something to do with your job, your obligation, your relationship, your chores, by all means, go ahead and think. But most of the time, we are assailed by a lot of unproductive, idle thoughts. Right? And because we have not trained our minds to come back to the present moment, we get caught up in them. Okay, clear enough. Simple to be a real Buddhist, right? You don't have to study all the suttas. Alright, so start your training. Be a real Buddhist.